humans, right? We often look for someone or something to blame when something bad happens in our lives. We look for a reason to understand why this bad thing could have happened. Well, for me, my human brain was trying to understand and find reasons why God would take my mom suddenly at the age of 49, just a few short years ago. For me, I had to blame someone. I had to find some reason for this, and I put my blame on God. How could he do this? Why would he do this? Doesn't he love me? So instead of turning to him in my time of grief, I turned my back on him, blaming him for all my pain, blaming him for her dying. But this wasn't a life I wanted to live or a feeling I wanted to have inside. But how was that going to stop? I knew that if I was ever going to heal, I would need to first heal my relationship with God. And the only way to do that, I learned, was through forgiveness. But what does that mean? What is forgiveness? I often think of my kids when I think of teaching forgiveness. When one does something wrong to the other, I say, you need to say sorry and have the other one forgive them. Now, do they really mean it? Nah, topic for another day, right? But another thing I learned through Life Model is something that also reminds me of my kids, the ABCs, and how these ABCs will walk us through what forgiveness means by using Life Model. So A, right? A is accepting. Accepting the fact that you're going to live with the consequences of someone else's sin, or recognizing that you can't change what happened. I sure couldn't change what happened to my mom as much as I wanted to bring her back. Again, my human mind thinking that. Life Model calls this accepting the freedom of forgiveness, or the bondage of bitterness that you hold on to until you can start to accept that. But when we do start to accept it, it means that we're starting to understand that the things that happen are that God finds a way to work all of these things for our good, even if we can't see that. There again, my human mind thinking, what? How can any good come out of her dying? Again, just another reason to turn my back towards God. It's sure easier said than done, right? Knowing that God works all things together for our good. So then we get to the letter B, right? B is for breaking the emotional and spiritual chain that unforgiveness has. Now, this definitely was the hardest for me, especially when all I did was place my blame on God. I was learning how to heal from this unexpected death of my mom. So I turned my hate, and yes, I'm going to use that word hate. I turned my hate to God. I hardened my heart and turned my back on him. Day after day, though, I was searching for healing. But when my sinful flesh turned away, how could I find true healing without Jesus? I soon learned it all came down to that word again, forgiveness. So finally, we're going to look to the letter C. Life Model tells us that C is for choosing to free someone from the bonds formed by bitterness. For me, that meant choosing to forgive God. Well, what does that mean? How can we do that, right? Well, come along with me over these next few weeks as I share my story. I share the tools that I learned through Life Model, how they helped guide me back through forgiveness, and how they returned me back to Jesus. I'll show you how, while I may have left Jesus during my darkest days, I know he truly never left me. Through it all.